Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Office of the Treaty Commissioner's Indigenous Storytelling Month event. This is session number 2 of 4. We are hosting these sessions from our Speakers Bureau. We're very happy that you could join us all this afternoon. My name is Amy Ciciquasis. I'm the Director of Public Education with the Office of the Treaty Commissioner. I am coming to you this afternoon from Treaty 6 territory, traditional territory of the Nehiowak, and homeland of the Round Prairie Michif. I would like to take a moment to introduce the staff that make these events possible. It is a collaborative effort out of the Public Education Department. And so I'd like to introduce to you Charmaine Gardner. She is our coordinator of the Treaty Learning Network. And we have Shade Heimbecker. She is one of our student mentors in the public education. And we have Autumn Baptiste, and she is one of our student mentors in public education. We're very happy to have all of you here. We have a lot of individuals registered and classrooms as well. We hosted this event in honor and recognizing Indigenous Storytelling Month, which was a time when we pass on our knowledge from one generation to the next. And this tradition of this oral tradition was rooted in understanding identity and culture and kinship, values, language, and our treaties. And so we're very honored to have various storytellers here with this month in recognition of Indigenous Storytelling Month. I'm going to pass the mic along to Shade, and she's going to give us some housekeeping and introduce our storyteller. So thank you all for joining us.
Hi, everybody. Thanks again for being here today for our second series of the Indigenous Storytelling Month. So yeah, just some housekeeping. If you guys can turn your cameras on, if you're comfortable, we know that the speakers appreciate this greatly. Just keep your microphones muted. That's also going to be very much appreciated. If you have any questions, you can just post it in the chat. And then once the speakers are done speaking, we will answer any questions that are in the chat. Also, if you guys can please post where you guys are from, the location you guys are tuning in from. If you guys are with a school, just tell us the name of the school and how many participants that are with you guys. And yeah, so I'm just going to introduce Jolie as our first speaker today. She is from the Buffalo People Arts Institute. And so Buffalo People Arts Institute is about sharing traditional Indigenous teachings and knowledge and nurturing it every day so our culture thrives. Jolie and Lauren Kequahtooway are husband and wife and co-founders of the Institute. Jolie BigEagle-Kequahtooway is an interdisciplinary artist whose main source of inspiration is Tatanga, aka Buffalo. She is a fashion and textile designer, visual artist, beater, storyteller, and co-founder of the Buffalo People Arts Institute. She comes from a long line of Buffalo hunters and is Nakota, Cree, and Saulteaux from the White Bear First Nations, signatory to Treaty 4. She has degrees in civil engineering from the University of Calgary and mathematics from the First Nations University of Canada. She loves to incorporate mathematics and geometry in her artwork and is inspired by the perfect symmetry in nature. Her mantra envelops everything Buffalo as it connects her to ancestral memories, the land, and is the manifestational glue that keeps her world together. So welcome, Jolie, and thank you for being here today and taking the time out of your day to do this. And I'm excited to hear what you have to say today.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's happy to see all of you, and good to see some of the cameras are on so I could see who I'm speaking to. I see some of the chat, there might be some audio issues, and so it would be great if somebody, I think one of the OTC people will probably be addressing some of those issues with you individually. So hopefully everyone will get their audio fixed so that they could hear. Today I wanted to, first of all, thank the Office of the Treaty Commissioner and all the staff that are on, as well as the ones that are always working from behind the scenes. And, I'm coming to you from Regina, Saskatchewan, Treaty 4 territory, homeland of my ancestors, the Nakota, Cree, Saulteaux people, but also the Dakota, Lakota, and the Métis. So, I always like to start with the smudge. And I know I've heard some others who've said, well, I don't feel like I should put that on the screen. And and I know this is being recorded right now, but sometimes I think that we need to document these things. We don't have to hide our culture anymore. We don't have to be scared to showcase our culture anymore. But it hasn't been that far in the past where our ceremonies were illegal, right? So in my mom's lifetime, they were illegal. So part of me, when I offer to smudge, and I offer to do that, in this technology, it's because part of me is like, well, the reconciliation is about being able to have the freedom to practice my culture wherever, whenever, however. And plus I want to, when I smudge, and especially when I'm storytelling, I kind of know my beginning and I know my end, but I don't know what's going to be said in the middle. And so when I smudge it'll help me to be able to activate some of my memories, activate some of the stories that need to come out today at this time. And so I'm going to smudge and offer it virtually through you, because I believe we're all tethered. Right now our spirits are tethered together, this invisible thread that connects us through this thing called the World Wide Web. It exists. We can't see it, but somehow we're connected right now. So with that in mind, we're also connected through this way to be able to send you this energy. So I want to send positive energy to all of you. So I do this with the best intentions, with Shante Washte, a good heart. And so I'm gonna smudge, and when I smudge, I just have some prairie sage here, just picked locally. And when I smudge, I take off my glasses and my metal objects. And so I want to absorb the smudge. And so I smudge my eyes to see good things. I smudge my mouth to speak good things. I smudge my ears to hear, but I smudge them again to listen, because I have a hard time listening. So I'm always smudging my ears. I smudge my head to share my knowledge. I smudge my head again to protect my knowledge. I don't have to give everything away. I smudge my heart to share my heart, but I smudge my heart to protect my heart. Again, I don't need to give everything away. And then I also just smudge my hands, my body, send gratitude for this body, because it carries me every day, no matter how it looks. I'm grateful for this body. I'm grateful that it carries me every day. So I just send gratitude. Thank you to my body. Thank you. And so, I offer it to all of you to just take a moment of reflection. Just close your eyes wherever you are in this space, and just take a moment of reflection to send up some gratitude to, higher power, creator, whomever you believe in, and send gratitude, just sending, prayers to who's ever out there, whoever wants to be here, isn't here, prayers for our children, our grandchildren, and just send gratitude for this day that we have here today, and gratitude to the ones that are around us, and gratitude even to ourselves. So I offer that to begin to hopefully share the stories that I need to share. And I opened my window because it was dark, and now the sun's coming through. So I wanted to share a bit about who I am, and the title on the poster was Buffalo Resilience. And so I was like, well, I got lots of buffalo stories. But sometimes I like pictures when I'm listening to people, and so I thought, well, I was gonna share some of my my art portfolio. I thought, because each of the things that I've done in my art practice, whether it's land-based art or whether it's visual art or whether it's storytelling, whether it's fashion. I think it's captured in this, my portfolio. So I thought I would share with my portfolio. I wanted to share some videos as well that, that speak a little bit to this love of buffalo. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this works. It's always hit and miss sometimes. Looks like it's going to be good. So can everybody see that? Okay. All right. So let maybe thumbs up from someone from OTC. It's all looks good. I'll expand it a little bit, see if that works. Okay, how does that look? Good. So, so the stories that I'm going to talk about, I say Tatanka. I remember the first time I heard that word was some of you guys, some of the teachers or the older people might remember, Kevin Costner in Dances with Wolves, right? And then he's like, Tatanka, right? And it's like, it's funny saying it. And, but really, I think that movie was probably my introduction to that word. And because when I grew up, I didn't know, nobody around me spoke Nakota or Cree or Soto. And so that movie, was kind of like this epiphany that that was like a Lakota word. And so, and that was like, I don't even know how old that movie is, right? 40 40 years ago. And so, when I started down this journey of wanting, a lot of my art is around identity, and identity meaning me as a person, as part of the Buffalo Nation, as part of the Tatanga Oyate. And so I've just become obsessed with Tatanga, so my uncle would correct me and say, it's not Tatanka, it's Tatanga. Like, so I'm not even saying it right because it's more guttural. It's Tatanga, right? I don't know if you could hear that. Tatanga. And so, I'm conscious of that, but the English language doesn't afford that guttural sound. And sometimes I fall back into tanka. So I'm still learning. And, but I find that really, since if I could pinpoint a moment in time when I became obsessed, or it's like, it was like this moment of, where are the buffalo, right? Where are the Tatangas? I'd have to say it was June 2010. And why I picked that time is because it was a moment where, me and my husband, who isn't going to be here because he has class and he has some assignments and deadlines he's working on. And so I don't think he's going to be able to attend this storytelling session. But, in June 2010, we had a lazy day. We wanted to take some pictures, we were like, what are we going to do today? Go, it was nice, but we wanted to stay outside. So we were going around to all these locations within Regina, and the first spot, that we saw was we had this grasshopper shape in front of the Royal Sask Museum. And it was growing these kind of vines around it, right? So it looked like a green, fluffy grasshopper. And so we took some pictures there. And then we were going down College Avenue, took some pictures with a turtle that had these different mosaic tiles on it. And then we took a picture of this winged creature that was like, I didn't even know what that creature was supposed to be. And then from there, it was like, well, we have some time today. Where else should we go? Where, what picture could we take that was reflective of us as a family? And we were like, well, aren't we Buffalo people? What does that mean? right? So that was kind of the beginning of the question that's been like 11 years in the making. It wasn't something that was so obvious growing up, because growing up I was just an Indian, right? So growing up I knew I was an Indian. I never knew what that meant, and I grew up in the city centers of Regina, Saskatoon, and so it was a very generic term, right? But it was historical and political in terms of the name assigned to us by the Canadian government under the Indian Act, right? So identifying as an Indian was just really generic, and I had this kind of like, I'm a city person, but I'm brown, and where do I fit in as an Indian person? And then finding out that there's a whole continent named India and that they also were called Indians. It was very confusing growing up, trying to figure out what that meant to be an Indian. And, so in my adult life, I've just been really conscious of my identity, and wanting to know, as you get, older, you always like question everything. And, you get to this point in your life where you're like, why? Is that like, is it age 5? For myself, I don't feel like I was in that. I questioned everything till I was probably when I went to university, right? And I was one of the first hardest assignments I ever got in university was, who is an Indian? And I thought I was so smart. I was going to ace this because I was an Indian. I knew who an Indian was. And the class was Indian Studies, because back then they called it Indian Studies 100. And the teacher was a lawyer. So he knew this was going to mess us up because it's not that easy to define who is an Indian. And so I remember once I started to write and do a little research, I was like, this is a really difficult question. And yet to this day, I still really have a tough time defining that, because there are people who exist in our community who we have adopted as relatives who are non-Indigenous. And sometimes they're more Indigenous than other people. Like, they know ceremony, they know songs, they know culture, they wear their hair long, they know the protocols, they know our language. Are they Indian people? Are they Indigenous? Especially when we adopt them through ceremony. When we start to call them brother or sister, or mother or father, right, or daughter or son. So it's not a clear image in my mind. So then my identity started to shift towards not this Indian Act version, but more towards this connection to land. And so, I'm obsessed with Taitanga, because I find that, as I do the research and as I study that relationship to Taitanga, that is more important to me than trying to fit myself into this definition. And so, this picture I took here is not of a real buffalo, I hope. Nobody thinks that I'm putting myself in danger. This is a stuffed buffalo Taitanga at Wanuskewin, right? Wanuskewin is just a little bit north in Saskatoon, and Wanuskewin is home to one of the it's a historical, I think it's UNESCO, or they're applying for UNESCO status, where it's a World Heritage Site of a place where they found buffalo jump. And so it has a lot of buffalo memories there, and significance. So I just, one of the things that I've learned in my experiences is that, the Maori people in New Zealand, when they greet each other, they greet each other kind of forehead to forehead. And then they kind of like breathe in each other's essence. And it's a way of acknowledging that spirit and our spirit are connecting. And so I wanted to, connect to that Taitanga spirit. And so that's why I nestled up to, the front of their head, wanting to so much absorb their energy, right? And so that's the purpose of this picture, or that's the background to this picture. So I wanted to share a little video that I did. It's about almost 3 minutes. And so I'm gonna stop sharing and set it up. Hopefully it won't play a commercial, 'cause it's on global news. So I thought this would be a good introduction to, so let me share again and share the sound. Hopefully everything works good. Okay, give me a second. All right, and again, if you guys could let me know if you can see that. Is it the full screen? Shade? Okay, all right, I'm gonna press.
I'm excited that more people are understanding the importance of buffalo, and not just the meat, but also that there's this huge other ripple effect in the communities. My name is Jolie BigEagle-Kequahtooway, and I am an interdisciplinary artist, and I'm co-founder of Buffalo People Arts Institute, and I consider myself a social art activist.
A lot of your work is centered on bringing back the buffalo. That's physically, spiritually, emotionally. What started you on this journey?
I didn't know about residential school until probably my 20s, right? And I didn't know my mother was a survivor, and my older sister also went to residential school. So, I just started to discover, what residential school took away from us. And one of those things was this history and knowledge of how we were connected to the buffalo. Then, I was like, well, what happened to the buffalo? That was the beginning.
So you're a storyteller and a teacher, and you've been continuing this work throughout the pandemic. What has that been like, and are you still making those connections there?
So a lot of our work is land-based, and so we work with buffalo hides. We work with school groups, community groups. We've just adapted and took some Zoom training and refigured how we could share these stories.
We are seeing physical buffaloes return to the prairies, right? We see the plains buffalo in Wanuskewin Heritage Park, now Poundmaker Cree Nation. What is it like for you when you see them returning to the land that they once roamed so freely?
So when I hear of the buffalo returning to these First Nations, I'm definitely their champion behind them, and we've gone to go and visit different sites where we know that they've been, and I hope that my own First Nation will be getting buffalo as well. I'm from White Bear, and so I know that they're beginning the planning process.
So do you see bringing back the buffalo as an act, or acts rather, of reconciliation?
Definitely. Talking about these truths of what happened to the buffalo. They didn't vanish, they didn't disappear, they were purposely killed off in the hopes that if they killed our food source, that we would die. I think it's important to talk about these stories because our children, our grandchildren are struggling. They need that identity. And so this is your identity. You're part of that Buffalo Nation.
So I really liked how that presentation was. It gave a really good succinct idea on where I'm at and where I'm thinking. And I wrote a story in 2016, and it got published in this one book called Saskatchewan, and I thought, well, should I share it today? And I think, since I have a captive audience, I'm gonna read this Oops.
18 new players take
That's,
on the most dangerous version of Survivor
Can somebody
ever
else hear
seen.
that? Is that mine?
That was a beautiful segue to your story.
What can I get myself?
Yeah. Survivor. I don't even know what that was, but anyways, I think I shut it down. So I feel like today is the day I'm gonna read the story that I wrote, in a period, in a mind of I was definitely searching for like I said, identity. So I'm gonna read it. So just sit back, and I'll sit back. And I don't think I've ever read this story out loud. And it's a short story, so hopefully it won't take too long. But it's a story of my wish, if I guess my wish for myself if I was a young girl. How would I imagine my life to be 1,000 years ago? And so I'm just going to take some water. And this story also won first place for creative nonfiction with the Briar Patch magazine. So you could read it online too. I come from a long line of buffalo hunters. The blood and spirit memories from our ancestral buffalo hunts course through my veins to prepare me for today. I feel the sweat dripping down my forehead. The dust is dry and thick, kicked up by thundering buffalo hooves. I crouch, my legs aching from waiting for the signal from the hunters. I watch them get into position. Some of the hunters are dressed in wolf fur. They are nimble and run bent low. They chase the buffalo toward the hunters that are lined up facing each other. These are the brave ones chosen by the elders within our community, for they stand in the path of the buffalo. They jump up and down, waving their buffalo robes to keep the buffalo from veering off the path. The route is wide enough for a small herd of buffalo to flow through, guided toward the jump. The buffalo in the front of the herd realize too late that the ground is no longer beneath their feet. The others behind them push the ones in front to the edge. They quickly tumble off the cliff. It's too late for any of them to turn back. They are frightened by the wolf-robed hunters and chase behind them. I saw this buffalo hunt maneuver played out many times as a child. Although I was never allowed to help, I needed to observe. It first to know what to expect. I have now inherited my grandmother's, my Unshi's obsidian stone. Its black sheen and pointed flint edges make it the perfect tool for its intended deed. This stone is the sharpest tool known to our people, and if it used properly, it can cut through anything, including the thick hide of a buffalo. My kushi would take me to watch the hunters chase down the buffalo and lead them to the jump, telling me that it was my destiny to eventually help with the buffalo kill at the bottom of the cliff. My mother, my Ina, would wait at the bottom of the cliff with her own obsidian stone. She was a skilled buffalo killer and was one of the few trusted to skin buffalo hides. I was to follow in her place when I was old enough. Until then, I watched from afar with my kushi. My most prized possession as a child was my obsidian stone. The stone had been carved into a sharp tip and attached to an antler so I could hold it in my hand. When I was younger, I would help my unshiashi skin gophers. Then I graduated to deer, elk, and moose. It was all in preparation to be a buffalo hunter and to help with the final kill at the bottom of the jump. Only the most skilled buffalo hunters were allowed at the hunt. The buffalo robes were the most prized possessions of our people. To kill and skin a buffalo, you must be careful not to make any holes in the fur hide. The robes would be used to keep our people warm on the coldest of winter nights. I feel honored to be taught these old ways. I was proud to be chosen to help alongside the other hunters. It is humbling to be present when the buffalo spirit takes its last breath, the sacrifice made for our people to continue living. I have infinite respect for our buffalo brothers and sisters, and I wanted to honor their spirits by making sure they did not suffer needlessly. If the buffalo did not die from the fall, then it was my duty to ensure a just and swift final blow for the sake of its spirit. It was a contract we made with our buffalo brothers and spirits to ensure their journey to the spirit world was completed as painlessly as possible. We wanted them to journey to the spirit world in a good way, knowing their sacrifice was not made in vain. My unshi and my ina started preparing me when I was a baby, singing the buffalo songs to me. As soon as I could speak, I sang to the buffalo spirit. The dreams didn't come easy at first. First, I heard the rumbling, the loud and the wind howling as they ran past. At times, I would dream I was running with them, darting between them, one of them. Other times, I would fly above them, soaring high overhead and watching, learning, wishing to be close. I loved their animal stench, and their fur felt downy near the neck and rugged at their hump. I wished I could stroke their fur. I felt at ease only when in their presence or as I watched them prance. I looked forward to the buffalo hunt each year because it was when they returned to us. I loved the energy in the air from my people when we would begin preparing for the hunt. The men would send scouts out to find where the buffalo shook the ground. We would break camp and travel miles to set up camp near the grazing buffalo. The men would prepare themselves mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for each buffalo hunt. The boys wanting to shed their innocence would be called upon to challenge themselves and prepare to hunt their first buffalo. The hunters would paint symbols of their animal or spirit protectors on their bodies with mud and earth paints. Their bows and arrows, parflesh shields, and obsidian spears would be smudged with the smoke of sage and sweetgrass, and the wooden handles painted to ensure their target was found. The women would sing the buffalo song to advise the buffalo to prepare themselves for the sacrifices to be made. We relied on the buffalo for life. They sustained us. We needed the buffalo to nourish and carry us forward for future generations. We had to think of our unborn children, grandchildren, and those yet to come. We needed to be strong for those yet unborn. These ways have been passed down to us through the generations, and our method was always the same to ensure a successful hunt. There was ceremony, but also protocol that we followed. Each hunter knew their place in the hunt, and we laid tobacco down when a kill was complete in order to honor the buffalo sacrifice and their life with one of our most valued medicines. Our community was large and filled with strong men and women, so we hunted in waves. One buffalo could feed 50 people. We would make buffalo pemmican, mixing their meat with berries and animal lard. The pemmican would last us through the winter. The best parts of the buffalo, the tripe, the tongue, the liver, were saved for the babies and the sick elders. The buffalo noses were saved for the heyokas. The nose would appease the spirits. Those heyokas. The noses would appease the spirits, and these healers carried special medicines when they performed the buffalo ceremonies for the people and danced the buffalo dance. Every part of the buffalo was salvaged and used by someone in our village. I am older now, and I feel ready to help in my first buffalo hunt. I talk to my elders and tell my unshi and ina that I want to help my people. They tell me I must prepare myself through a purification ceremony. It's an enormous burden to take the life of a buffalo. We are so connected that when the buffalo spirit leaves the animal, sometimes it wants to take the human spirit with it. So we have to guard our spirits during the buffalo hunt. The women and men sweat separately for this purification ceremony. The songs are different, and the elders have specific instructions for the and for the women on their duties during the hunt. We each sing our buffalo songs in the sweat lodges. We pray and sing, and tell stories of previous successful hunts. In between sweat lodge rounds, we joke and some tell stories of heroic acts or misguided adventures during the hunts. Laughter fills the camp. The children run, jump up and down, and crouch, pretending to be buffalo hunters. They take turns, one being the hunter, the other being the buffalo, then switch roles. One day it'll be their turn to be on the prairie hunting real buffalo. I cry hard in the sweat lodge. I am happy, but also sad because I don't want to take my buffalo brother or sister's spirit away. I love watching them run free and play with one another. It makes my spirit feel free. It keeps my dreams alive. But the elders tell me that the buffalo love us and that they want our people to live forever. So they are willing to sacrifice their life and happiness for our survival. It has been that way since the beginning of time. I have to believe I am fulfilling my destiny and that they are too. It is the only way to continue and to take my role in the tribe as a buffalo hunter and rope skinner. I run with a group of women toward the bottom of the hill as the buffalo tumble and fall from the cliff above. Some buffalo jump up and run, limping away. I have only one chance for my obsidian tool to find its mark, and I must act swiftly to plunge my obsidian into the buffalo's neck. The stronger men and women pull the heavy animals away from the bottom of the hill. As the other buffalo are dropping from the cliff, we have to be quick and kill intently to ensure our food stays in place. We carry the burden of guaranteeing that we have enough buffalo meat for our people to survive the long frigid winter on the plains. I meet my first buffalo brother at the bottom of that cliff. I look into his eyes as he rolls toward me. I know I've been waiting for this moment all of my life, but now, faced with the task at hand, I can't do it. I'm frozen. I look into his eyes and start crying. And then I hear him. He tells me, "You need to take away my pain. If you are my sister, you will do the right thing. Take your obsidian tool and plunge it into my neck. Do it quickly. As I must leave this earth, I am one of the chosen ones, and I will take my rightful place where I came from. Then you must eat my heart. I will be yours forever, and you'll be mine forever. I will live on through you. Never forget me. Tell your children and grandchildren about me so that they will honor my spirit after you have passed on to the spirit world. This is what has been told to me by my brothers and sisters. Our destinies are tied together for eternity. Do it. Take your obsidian and strike now." I, as loud as I can, to give myself strength and to honor what has been said by my buffalo brother. I remember my Unshi's and Ina's words, and I again and again, 4 times, I li as I strike the spot I know will end his life. I take a deep breath in and out quickly so I do not force the buffalo spirit into my body. I can only eat his heart, and I say some of it for my Unshi and Ina and the other hunters who are watching me, encouraging me. It all happens in a blink, but to me in the buffalo spirit, it lasts a lifetime. I feel the blood entering my blood as I take my initial bites of my first buffalo kill. The heart is still beating. We will always be one with the buffalo. They are in our blood and we are part of their spirit, forever connected, forever bonded. No force alive in the universe will separate us, for as long as the wind blows, the rivers flow, and the sun shines. I am a buffalo hunter. So that's, was one of my stories that I wrote as my, and
Beautiful.
thank you. I guess it's fitting, being, maybe that's why I wanted to come out, being Valentine's Day. And I forgot, it's been a while since I read it, so I forgot that, I ate the heart of that buffalo. And, one of the symbols of today is the heart. And so, I'll be thinking about that the rest of the day, just kind of how, there's this version of expressing your love to your loved ones. And today I'll be thinking of that buffalo heart and how, I can express my love to my loved ones by sharing these stories. So I still have, some time to share before the next presenter comes on. So I'm gonna share my screen again, and I'll share some of my art that I've been blessed to be able to create. So let me open that again. And let's see. Okay. Let's see if I can do that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So one of my art practice, well, not one, my art practice centers around buffalo. And so one of the things that my husband and I do is we'll go out to communities and we'll do, buffalo hide tanning workshops. And some of those, I have pictures of that coming up, and some of that par flesh or those robes will go to those communities. But some of the work that we do, we'll do in our home, or we'll, if that community it doesn't need that par flesh, or they don't have a purpose for it. If it's an art gallery, then we take that rawhide. And so here's a piece that we did for the city of Regina. I called it my buffalo tree painting. And so, on my buffalo tree are these little leaves that look like buffaloes. And so, it's 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 an ongoing art project that I've been creating, and so this is just a sample of that. So when I scroll through, can you see the next image? Shade. Okay, so this is an image. This is probably one of the first. I think I'm pretty sure it's my first buffalo hide project that I created. Not I created. Let's just take a step back, because buffalo hide tanning work isn't done by one person. Just like in my story, it's community. So we were gifted this buffalo hide by a local rancher who is a part of Silver Stream Bison Farm, and they got connected with us because they heard we loved buffalo. And so they said, here, would you like a hide? Because otherwise when we harvest the animal, we'll just tie up the hide with a skull and we'll leave it out in the prairie for the wolves to eat. And so out of that, I was like, there's still wolves? Was one of my questions. The second one was, I have no idea how to work on a buffalo hide, but the answer is yes. Whenever it comes to buffalo, the answer is always yes. So we said yes before we knew how. My husband sought out a teacher, Doug Hanska, and his wife at the time, Tanya. They're from Birdtail, Dakota Sioux in Manitoba. They had a land-based camp happening. And so he went to the camp and took that hide and said, help us, show us. And then the following April, he came to White Bear. So we set up our teepee in the back of my mom's backyard. She lives on White Bear. And we thought, well, let's start teaching each other. And so unfortunately, this isn't the greatest picture, but that's Doug kneeling over. I think he's beginning to scrape some of the hide there, and his wife's in the background, me at the red toque, my mom with her back towards us, and my husband, kind of adjusting the top frame. So, working on this first buffalo hide, I think one of the first lessons that I learned about this hide was, what's protocol, right? So one of the things we did before we started was we would smudge, everybody smudge, right? And, so we had been working on this hide, all day. And I believe we worked on it for a few days. We had a fire in that teepee, so to keep us warm. So we go get warm inside there when we needed to. But my mom's house was just over to the left. So we go eat in her house. And so we put in some good hours, and I had a relative come, and she wanted to learn, and her boyfriend was there. And so they were gung-ho to learn, and they were been watching, right? And so we all went inside for a snack, and they were like, well, we can work on the hide while you guys are warming up. And we were like, okay, great, great. Here's the tools, you know, go ahead and you've been watching what we're doing. You know, we showed them a little bit what to do. And then we went inside and we were just like, oh my goodness, we were just slapping each other on the back. Good job, good job. You know, it's almost done. And then we came outside, and that hide that we had worked on had holes all through it. It was like it was Swiss cheese. And, you know, and so it was like the hopes and the dreams for that hide, whether it was to be a buffalo robe or to be made into drums or rattles or art, disappeared as soon as we looked at the hide. And so, you know, one of the teachings that I took away from that was that we didn't know what, you know, those young people were going through, but they definitely took it out on that hide, right? And so maybe there were some issues in their relationship, and so, you know, so they hit that hide and hit it so much that they made a hole in it. And you know, but it was healing for them. It really was healing for them. And you know, that's how I like to look at it, that it helped them sort out whatever they were going through. You know, we didn't give them instruction as to make sure you don't make any holes, you know, but it was a lesson for us too, that you know, people are starting just to learn what this means, and even how to work with it. And so after that, we made a rule. And the rule was, you make a hole, you sew a hole. And that really, you know, stopped the creation of holes within the hides when we would go out to communities. So that was a big lesson. And so, you know, working on buffalo hides is not just something we do out on, out of the city in rural areas, and, you know, on First Nations. But this is a hide that, you know, me and my family and some of our friends worked on beside our house. We live in kind of the center, near the center of Regina here, what's known as North Central, aka Buffalo Meadows. And you know, and so I don't even know. Oh, hi, my baby. Oh, my grandbaby just got here. Just a second. Okay, thank you. I couldn't unmute myself. Thank you. So, you know, my granddaughter just got home. So if you happen to hear baby, it's probably going to be her. All right. So, you know, part of my art practice includes going out to different community, different places to set up buffalo hides and teach them how to scrape the hide, and talk about these stories, about these teachings, the importance of buffalo in our past, in our present, and then in the future, right? Like, this isn't something that that is just in the past, like my story said, right? Yeah, we have to keep these stories alive for the next future generations that are going to be coming up behind us. So we had an opportunity to set up some hides at First Nations University. And I don't know what we're laughing about, but it was really funny. And you know, sometimes we're like, why? Probably laughing because we brought 2 hides out and it's so much work. And we're just laughing because we're crazy. We should really just do 1 hide at a time. And so I think maybe it's a laugh of relief. The day is ended and we made it through and our backs are good. And so, you know, when I see this image, I just think of that connection to the buffalo, and the happiness that it brings to my spirit, and hopefully the happiness it brings to others. So I'm an artist, and you know, it's hard to classify myself as what kind of artist I am. You know, some people have said I'm a land-based artist. What does that mean? I'm a social art activist. What does that mean? You know, I was a part of, my husband and I were part of this project with Commonweal Respond to Racism. And it was like, well, how do we respond to racism with buffalo? And so part of what we wanted to do was to set up a buffalo hide at the Treaty 4 gathering place. You know, the Treaty 4 gathering is usually the week of around September 15th, because Treaty 4 was signed September 15th, 1874. And so all these teepees are set up. There's schools that come from all over, rural, city. I think they said like there were about 7,000 kids that came through the gathering this week, and about 700 came through our teepee. And some of them came and helped set up the hide. You could see this one, they're actually learning to string it up. And there were some young kids, like we open it up for even kids. If you can stand, then you can hold a tool. And so we would, you know, put the tools in the hands of kindergartens, and the tools that we would use, they're dull, but they're sharp. They, though we still use the traditional bone tools. And so, you know, they are sharp, they do the job, but they're really good in terms of teaching tools, because they're not necessarily too sharp that you could get hurt. Although I have scraped myself, but you know, with I was like really putting all my muscles into it, and usually the young children, they don't. So we had about 700 youth come visit our site, and we shared these stories in the teepee, and then they would go out to the hide and then do the scraping for, you know, 5 minutes. Or some of them loved it so much, they knew us from somewhere else. They came and their teachers said, hey, can we just leave these guys here? Because they love to scrape. And they don't want to leave. So is it okay if we just leave them? We're like, sure, yeah, we're okay with that if you're okay. So we really appreciate some of those students, and I think these are the fellows on the ground here from Carry the Kettle. So, you know, this was, for me, this was really impactful, sharing my art practice, you know, with all these youth, in terms of storytelling, in terms of getting in there and feeling that fat and that meat, and, you know, and touching the grease, and knowing that, hey, this piece can become a drum, or many drums, right? And that in the spirit of reconciliation, that we would take this hide and we would go and work with that rawhide in different schools, and teaching them about rawhide, right? And so that it's kind of just like continues to snowball till eventually all of the buffalo hide is used, right? So we don't throw away any buffalo rawhide, that's for sure. And so here's that the time that we went to Carry the Kettle. And we worked with another artist named Chris Alvarez. And so she's in the background doing some theater, some drama, some kind of trust exercises with the youth. There was it was a joint project between Carry the Kettle and Indian Head School. So kind of in the spirit of reconciliation, again, showcasing, you know, all the students from Indian Head came to Carry the Kettle for grade 7, 8. And we all did some of these trust exercises. And then there would be like 5 youth working on the hide at a time. And so, you know, just kind of doing our best to connect them, right? And say that, you know what, this is a part of our culture, right? And this is something that the students from Indian Head can come and see, something that's positive and still present in our teachings. So I was fortunate to be an artist in residence at the University of Regina. And so my proposal, what I proposed to do at the university, was to set up a buffalo hide to scrape a buffalo hide. And so, you know, the difference, I don't know if you can see the difference. Like if we look at this hide here on the ground, see how it's white and red and it's kind of fleshy and fat. So when that's how you want it to look when you're working on a hide. And you see this hide, it's black. It's almost like beef jerky. So, and you see in the background, there's plastic and everything. Well, you know, I had tried to work with the university. The university tried to accommodate us, finding us someplace inside to do this work because it started in January, in the kind of middle of winter. We couldn't really do it outside, but this place that they found for me, and no fault of their own, it was just so dry in that space that I had set up the hide the night before. I'd covered it with blankets. I had hoped it would stay fleshy so it would be easy to scrape by myself. You know, I thought, oh, I'm the artist in residence. I got to be the one to do this. Everything I talked about community out the window, and it's all about me, 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 me. You know, and definitely got a lesson, because when I came back the next day to begin working on it, it had completely dried and sucked all the moisture out of that hide. And so it turned into this kind of jerky looking. And so it was really tough to work with. And I wasn't able to scrape it by myself. So I had to call in reinforcements. And I had to call in my husband and my son, and I made a Facebook post and I said, anybody want to volunteer, come and help. These students, university students, were also, that was part of the residency, to come and teach them and tell them some of the stories, and then to offer them the ability to come and scrape. So it was a really interesting experiment on, can we, you know, that question, can we walk in two worlds, right? That's always the question as Indigenous people. How do we walk in two worlds? And this was a really good practice, or a really good experimentation on that, because this buffalo hide, it really, it just wasn't the room, the colonial institution that it was. It just didn't match what was needed to work on this hide. And so the lesson learned from me was, either set the hide up at 6 a.m. and get to work on it that day, and get your people in place and do the defleshing all in one day, or do it outside, find a place outside. So there's a lot of lessons with each of these hides. And the other big lesson was, you need community. You really need community when you're working with buffalo, whether it's cutting up the meat, you know, dispersing it, whether it's working on all the different things that you could make out of the buffalo, the hooves, you know, the fat, the making the robe, softening the skin, you know, even working on the skull and fleshing the skull, right, and cleaning it, getting that skull ready for ceremony, you know, digging out the brains from the skull without cracking the skull, you know, all of those things, you know, we've been learning as we go along. And there's still so much more to learn from the buffalo from Tatanga. So one of the other things that I'm working on is, I titled this Decolonizing Spaces Within Regina. So I've conducted a few art actions to advocate changing the name of Dudney Avenue to Tatanga Avenue. And why, you know, while Dudney was, you know, this unfortunately, you know, is this horrible historical figure that did terrible things to Indigenous people. You know, some of the examples I could point out were, you know, he was the Indian, oh, what's the title he had? The lieutenant, I'm sorry, forget his Indian commissioner at the time, in when he worked as the right-hand man to John A. Macdonald. And so he was responsible for implementing some of the treaty provisions. And one of the treaty provisions is providing food, rations to the people. Well, various points as his term, responsible for this, he would stock away the food and not disperse it. And when the food had rotted enough, then he would take that food and then disperse it, willfully hoping that people would get sick when they ate the food. And so, that was, one of the things that he would purposely do, and I think that just looking at that kind of gives you an idea of his character and his personality, that he was definitely not somebody who I would consider as somebody who would help Indigenous people, and more wanted Indigenous people oppressed. So, he isn't somebody that should have a street named after him. He did a number of other things around residential schools and the enactment of residential schools, and helping to forge a path to ensuring residential schools were put in place. And so, when I look at Dewdney Avenue in Regina, it's literally an avenue / whatever street that runs through the heart of Regina from west to east. And it is the only street that runs through the whole of Regina. So, and it's central. So it's almost like the heart of Regina. If you could look on a map, it's kind of halfway through the city. So it's like the heart of Regina, and the heart of Regina shouldn't reflect somebody like an individual like Dewdney. It really should reflect something that is more symbolic to what we want to strive for in terms of reconciliation. And for me, that's Tatanga, honoring the spirit of the buffalo, spirit of the Tatanga that were here. This is prime territory for Tatanga. This was their land. And so, it wasn't, there was not, if there was anything that was here on this land, it was them. So we need to acknowledge that history. We need to acknowledge that past, and what a great way to do it by making this name change. So that's my hope. I've had a few workshops and art actions where we've gone and put buffalo images all over Dewdney Avenue. We've renamed Dewdney Park and Pool to Buffalo Meadows and Buffalo Pool. So, it's slowly happening, slowly coming to fruition. So I just have a few images of my art. My fashion is all around buffalo, Tatanga. And I made this dress that was showcased in Australia at this Global Indigenous Runway fashion show in March of 2018. And so I hand dyed this dress and, dyed it, painted it. And for me, it represents like my family tree. And my tree, as it goes up, I have roots, right, that connect me to this land. I have roots that go upwards too, that connect me to my ancestors. And although I have, people ancestors, I also way up there, I have buffalo as my ancestor. So I put buffalo on the top part of this dress. I don't know if you guys can see that. So, and then I made this buffalo headpiece. I call it my headpiece. The horns are designed from one of our camps from a fellow named Edward Putra. And but I wanted the hair, the fur of the buffalo to be more kind of contemporary. So we used kind of brown organza, and then the fake fur for the front. So she, I've worn this headpiece in some of the parades at the Queen City Parade when we've got all of our camp participants to come and dance in the parade and wear their headpieces. So like we were taking over the streets as buffalo for that one day. So this is a piece, the bottom of this corset is buffalo. And so that's parfleche. It looks really thin, but that actually is parfleche. So here is, oops, yeah. And the top as well is buffalo leather. So I created this for a fashion show called the Buffalo Resilience Fashion Show in July 2019. And painted these what I think are crocuses, on top of that. And the story behind that is, where the crocuses are only sprout up when I think in March, maybe in April a little bit, but the crocuses are the first flower of after winter, the first flower of spring. And they're so resilient because they'll pop up when there's still snow on the ground. And this elder up north shared a story of Maria Linklater. I read her story in this newspaper, that when a baby buffalo is born, where they drop their baby belly button, a crocus sprouts up. So whenever you see a field of purple crocuses, I think of those baby buffaloes. And so I started to create these crocus images in my designs. And so as you can see, she's wearing these purple crocuses on her shoulders. And this also was, let's see, I think this was the Buffalo Resilience Fashion Show. And so she's wearing this leather top. It's actually was dyed red. It's actually buffalo leather. And so I created this buffalo top, and she's wearing some rabbit fur necklace, and the crocuses on her shoulders. And the skirt, it's kind of this furry looking material. And I thought, well, it almost looks like how a buffalo back would look, right? A little bit of curly at the rump area there. So that was kind of the thought behind showcasing this dress. So during COVID, pretty much everything shut down. I seen a post on Facebook from a couple of artists. I think they're in Ontario and BC, and they did a call out for this art project called Breathe, asking artists to submit masks, COVID masks, bead them, paint them, create them, however. And so this was my mask that I created. Again, it's out of buffalo rawhide, and I stitch it together with the red being symbolic of missing and murdered Indigenous women. The red dress project, as well as red representing resilience. To me, it represents passion, right? It represents, resilience. And so, of course, these are my crocuses up a vine. And then there's my buffalo just ready to come running at you. So that's still touring right now. It's actually up right now in Northwest Territories, Yellowknife. Yeah. So it's gone to the Royal Museum in Edmonton. It's been showcased there, and now it's in Yellowknife. So I don't know if it's where else it's touring. And I'm also, I just want to, share, I love Star Blankets. I kind of think that I said that in my intro. I have a mathematics degree, and what I love about Star Blankets is that they it's mathematical in process, in design. You have to know how to create these in terms of how they connect to each other. But the other part is I love the meaning and the thought behind them. They're gifted to babies. They're gifted, you know, through celebrations like graduations, weddings. They're also gifted or presented in death and honoring someone's life. They'll cover the casket. And for me, these star blankets, why I love to do them, they're kind of my bread and butter, how I earn money too. When I need to earn money, I'll make a star blanket. And you know, but the reason why we've as Indigenous people, you know, honor people by gifting them these is the star is that connection to our origin stories, where we come from. In every Indigenous culture, there's a story saying that we came from the stars. And so when we honor people with these star blankets, just acknowledging that origin story, that you're still connected to the stars, and from the stars you came, to the stars you'll return. So I just wanted to share a bit about that. And love buffalo so much. We created this big, huge white buffalo for the Queen City Exhibition Parade in July 2019. In the back of the buffalo, those are kind of the ribs, you know, the history of Regina, pile of bones, right? Wanting the buffalo to return. The head is kind of reflection of the past, the present, the future. And this buffalo is wearing a headdress. The headdress was designed by Jada Delorme and her mom, Chastity Delorme, and I designed the buffalo headpiece. You know, and so it's also a white buffalo, return of the white buffalo. And I think I'm coming to the end of my time, but there's a story called, you know, that's told by Orville Looking Horse. He's a 19th generation keeper of the white buffalo calf pipe. And if there was kind of a to-do list that I could share with others that are on this, if you Google, he's on YouTube. He tells a story of the white buffalo calf pipe and how he came in possession of this pipe. So this float is to honor that story. You know, during COVID, I participated in a Zoom workshop where we created creatures for the end of the world. What creature would you want to end up with? And of course, mine was a buffalo, a buffalo man, right? And so, you know, he's got his coat on, and he's a sun dancer. He's wearing his red skirt. Who is he dancing for? Usually, or we'll have our applique images of animals that we take on as spirit helpers, whether they're bear or Sasquatch or eagles or buffalo or turtles, or, you know, whatever animal. But for him, he's wearing his Sundance skirt and he's dancing for men and women. And so that's why I put that little man, and he's wearing his Sundance necklace with the star, of course. And I told you what that star meant, right? So yeah, and I'll just skip over this last one. Might be a little, I don't know if there's children on, but I have this matriarch slide where I'm talking about rematriate and just this, how these our matriarchs are, we need to talk about how we're a matriarchal society versus patriarchal society, and what does that mean in terms of how they're presented and how they're represented and how they influence our community. So this is art in progress, and just my sketches. So, you know, I was fortunate to go to Grasslands National Park in June of 2019. And we did a buffalo hide out there with all the schools in the surrounding areas, you know, so from Shaunavon, East End, you know, Val-Marie, to Frontier, and they came and they worked on a buffalo hide for a week long, different rotating. And so, you know, on kind of an evening where I had some time off, some of the wardens, or not, are they called wardens? Game wardens? No, they're not game wardens. Some of the park interpreters took me to a place where there were some teepee rings, and then they showed me this rock, and there's another lady who went on top of it, so I went on top of it, and then when I got on top, I just kind of felt like, wow, this is amazing. I'm on the homeland of where the buffalo I think there were 700 buffalo that get to roam in this area. There's all these teepee rings. This is where my people camped. They said they hired some summer students in previous years to count all how many teepee rings there were, and they said 16,000 were counted in this area. And so you could feel the energy. So I just felt really happy to be present in this space, and I didn't know until I got the picture later that this rock looked like a buffalo. And so I thought, wow, I didn't even see that. So that probably was another reason why I felt really joyous and complete. So, I think that's all the time I have. I think I kind of got from my beginning to my end. There's a whole lot more I probably could share, but I know that we have another speaker storyteller is going to be coming on. So I just wanted to say, let's see, I'll stop sharing. Just hopefully that'll stop sharing. Say thank you, Panama I, for listening, for being on the Zoom call. Hopefully, some of the stories stick, and maybe there's something that maybe caught your attention. And if there were any kind of Q&A, I don't know if we have time, but you can definitely put it into the chat. Maybe the chat is enabled. I know it was disabled, but maybe it can be enabled. It says if we're shutting down the chat, you can email Charmaine or phone her as well as just letting them know if you have any feedback from this conversation. So Panama I, Matakioasin, really grateful to be here, and grateful for this time to be able to share, because it always feeds my heart and my soul when I'm able to articulate some of these things, right, and to share. So yeah.
Hi, everyone. I just want to let you know that we've shut down the chat. And if you need to, like Jolie said, you can contact me via email, or you can call or text me. My number's on the side there. We just had some not very good comments come up in the chat, and we just didn't want it to continue happening. So we've locked it down for now. And sorry about that to all.
Thank you again, Jolie, so much for your storytelling and your willingness to share with us. Really appreciate it. And every time you join our sessions, I always learn something more from you.